Amelia went bankrupt, owing her creditors $3 million. Jacob, abandoning the pride of being the top student in the acting department, took on various acting jobs to gather money for him. The day she finally collected the $3 million happened to be the day Jacob, as the stand-in for Amelia and Zion, drank the 9,999th mouthful of dirty sewer water on the set. Just as Jacob was about to tell Amelia the good news that the compensation was ready, she saw Amelia passionately kissing Zion, pinning him against a table in the green room on the set. Jacob just made your wife reshoot the sewer water scene so many times. Will you be angry with Jacob? Of course not. Besides, if she didn't look a little like you, how could Jacob possibly be with her? What's more, Jacob spent $150 million on this film just to welcome you back, but you've been with her for 6 years. Did you really not develop any feelings? If she wasn't so uninhibited in bed, Jacob wouldn't have kept her for so long. But don't worry, Ella, Jacob never kissed her, because you said Jacob's lips could only be kissed by you. And didn't Jacob send you all the videos of Jacob and her in bed for you to check? Jacob's mind went blank, her hand trembling as she placed it on Oliver inside. There was a 12-week-old fetus, and in her right pocket, Jacob still carried the $10 special prenatal medication she had bought from an unlicensed clinic. Knox's words were like a bucket of ice water, drenching Jacob from head to toe, chilling her hands and feet. No wonder, after 6 years of dating, he never kissed her on the lips on her 25th birthday. Jacob pretended to be tipsy and, emboldened by the alcohol, kissed his lips, but she saw towering rage in his eyes and was locked out on the 20 below zero balcony for an entire night. He said this was punishment for Jacob's disobedience and presumptuous kiss. It turned out he had reserved his lips for Quinn. No wonder every time they were in bed, he would always turn on video recording mode on his phone. He said it was because he loved Jacob so much that he wanted to record Jacob's passionate expressions. But she never imagined it was just to report the details of Jacob's time in bed to Quinn. Jacob didn't know how she walked off the set, her right hand tucked into her pocket, the special prenatal medication in a plastic bag burning her hand. She had planned to tell Knox both pieces of good news at once, to make him happy. She never expected it would only be Jacob's joy. After running home, Jacob found the promissory note where Knox claimed he owed $3 million to creditors and dialed the phone number listed on it. Beep, the call connected. Jacob was the first to ask, "Excuse me, does Knox owe you $3 million? How could Ari possibly owe Jacob $3 million? Did you dial the wrong number?" The answer was clear. The so-called $3 million debt was also a lie. Jacob hung up the phone and knelt down, crying. Knox had lied to Jacob for a full 6 years, her feet tingling from crouching on the floor. Jacob was about to stand up when Morgan twisted the doorknob and walked in. "Jade, Jacob didn't mean to lie to you about the $3 million. Jacob just wanted to test if you loved Jacob." The man still carried Quinn's unique perfume scent, and the buttons on his white shirt were haphazardly fastened. The top button was undone, revealing a collarbone marked with fresh, vibrant nail scratches and bite marks, clearly just inflicted. But Jacob had been filming outside for a month straight and had no time to be intimate with Knox. These past 6 years, watching Jacob do the dirty, exhausting work no one else wanted, just to pay off the $3 million debt for you, sleeping only 3 hours a day. Wasn't that incredibly satisfying for you? Jacob thought she could hold it in, but the moment the words left her lips, tears stained Jacob's pants. Knox's eyes showed a look of dismay as he reached out to hug Jacob. "Jade, Jacob was wrong." Knox answered Jacob's question. "Jade, Jacob has money now. Didn't you like a dress the other day? Jacob will take you to buy it right now." The man's evasive attitude infuriated Jacob. Jacob pushed away the hand he had placed on her waist. Knox's face instantly turned cold. Phoenix, are you ever going to stop? Other women would jump all over Jacob if they saw Jacob had money. If you keep this up, be careful. Jacob won't give you a single cent. To this day, he still didn't believe Jacob loved him for who he was. Jacob wiped the tears from her face and looked calmly at the man. Knox, Jacob thinks we should break up. There's a limit to being unreasonable. Jacob will wait for you to come to your senses. Immediately after, Jacob heard Knox slam the door. As he left her, Oliver felt a slight cramping pain. Jacob took the special prenatal medication, but the pain persisted all night. The next morning, a news headline popped up on her phone. Mysterious Alex Bigshot spends night in Quinn's room. The man's figure in the photo was indeed Knox on her first day back on the set after taking leave. Quinn spontaneously added a love scene to the script, and she specifically requested Jacob as the stand-in. Jacob won't do it. Whether you do it or not is not up to you. Quinn gestured to someone nearby, and two people immediately stepped forward. They grabbed Jacob's hands, and despite her struggles, forcibly pulled off Jacob's faded white t-shirt in an instant. Jacob was left only with the nipple pasties on her chest. Jacob tightly wrapped her arms around herself, covering her chest, and said to Quinn, "Does Knox know about your domineering personality?" Quinn curled her red lips. "He's right here. Do you think he knows?" Jacob looked around and indeed saw him behind the monitor, but the man showed no intention of stopping them. He seemed still resentful of Jacob's words from the day before. Jacob was dragged onto the bed. The director, seeing Jacob's stiff expression, frowned. "Weren't you the top student in your year? Why are you acting like this? Jacob saw you in videos with people. Weren't your expressions quite rich then?" "What video? What video are you talking about?" Jacob grabbed the nearest person and asked. He handed his phone to Jacob. The video on the phone was indeed of Jacob and Knox in bed. However, the man's face in the video was heavily pixelated, while only Jacob's face and body were clear and uncensored. Appearing naked in the video, Jacob looked at Knox in disbelief. That he sat there indifferently, as if it had nothing to do with him. "Phoenix, as long as you admit your mistake, Jacob will help you." Jacob knew he was referring to the argument about the $3 million that day, and he was waiting for Jacob to give in because for the past 6 years, whenever they argued, Jacob was always the one to placate him. So he was certain Jacob would proactively beg for forgiveness, but this time, Jacob refused. Seeing Jacob remain silent for a long time, he scowled and said coldly, "Keep filming." The director tied Jacob's hands and feet, then stuffed a towel into Jacob's mouth. Seeing Jacob remain expressionless, he even had someone force medicine down Jacob's throat, and proceeded to continue the scene. The male actor co-starring pinched Jacob's waist and said in a harsh tone, "You're so practiced in the videos. Clearly an experienced woman. Who are you putting on this act for now?" He disregarded Jacob's will, invading her again and again. The drug's effects mingled with her physical discomfort. Before long, Jacob felt liquid running down her inner thighs, and something seemed to be draining from her. Oliver, before her consciousness faded, Jacob saw Knox stand up from his seat. Looking panicked, Jacob thought he had noticed her distress and was about to wave to him, but then she saw him run towards Quinn, who had scalded her finger with hot water. Chapter 3. When Jacob woke up in the hospital bed, the first thing she did was touch her. "Oliver, is Jacob's baby still there?" The nurse shook her head. "It was too late when you arrived. We couldn't save the baby. Can Jacob see him one last time? Even if it's just a blood clot." Tears streamed down her face, her heart filled with such pain that Jacob could barely breathe. But someone claiming to be your relative already took the baby's body while you were unconscious." The nurse looked at Jacob, confused. "Who?" Jacob grabbed the nurse's sleeve. It sounded like Quinn. Jacob ignored her freshly stitched wounds stumbling barefoot out of the hospital room. When Jacob reached the hospital entrance, she saw Quinn standing in the garden, holding a dog on a leash. The dog was eating something, its head down, clearly enjoying its meal. Quinn, where's Jacob's baby? Quinn saw Jacob, but her face showed no panic. Instead, she pointed at the dog with a malicious smile. Why don't you ask my Ran? Only then did Jacob notice the glaring red around the dog's mouth, and the container on the ground was labeled Mother Phoenix. So, the beast had just eaten Jacob's unborn child. Jacob clutched her hair with both hands, her thoughts in a chaotic mess, screaming, Spit him out, Jacob! Spit him out! A suffocating sense of despair surged through her. Jacob lunged forward, prying open the dog's teeth, demanding it to spit him out. Woof woof woof. The dog's teeth left deep bite marks on Jacob's arm, deep enough to see bone. Phoenix, you crazy woman! What are you doing to Jacob's Ran? Quinn seemed not to have expected Jacob to be so frenzied. She quickly reached out to stop Jacob, and Quinn instantly started wrestling. Just as Jacob was about to push her away, a powerful kick landed on Jacob's Oliver in mid-air. Jacob felt as if she heard the sound of her wounds tearing open. Jacob fell heavily to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, and the blue and white hospital gown around her waist and Oliver was stained red with blood. There was also a smashed cake on the ground. Phoenix, are you ever going to stop? Quinn added that scene for business. To make the film better, how long are you going to keep making a scene? Jacob even bought you your favorite strawberry cake. Knox, Jacob's baby is in this beast's mouth. Jacob pointed at the dog's mouth, but Knox interrupted her with a single sentence. When did Jacob and you have a child? You actually made up such an absurd excuse just to bully Quinn. Jacob didn't lie to you. Knox didn't look at Jacob instead. He took Quinn's hand and blew on it. Quinn, does it hurt? Amelia. Phoenix really seemed like she was going to kill Jacob. Just now Jacob was terrified. Quinn snuggled into Knox's arms, but shot Jacob a provocative, triumphant smile. Jacob crawled over, grabbing Knox's pant leg. Please, Knox, for the sake of all these years we've had, please get Jacob's baby out of that dog. Knox stood on the steps, looking at Jacob with disappointment. Phoenix, you never used to lie. How did you become such a deceiver? Jacob really didn't lie to you. You don't really think Jacob loves you, do you? To be honest, if Quinn hadn't gone abroad for further studies, Jacob would never have been with an orphan like you, with no parents. And when Jacob was in bed with you, all Jacob thought about was Quinn. Jacob was already heartbroken beyond words, yet she still pleaded. Knox, Jacob doesn't ask for your love. Jacob only asks that you let Jacob's baby rest in peace. That really is your child. Knox looked hesitant, about to speak, but Quinn interrupted him. The woman clutched her Oliver, feigning pain. Amelia, my Oliver hurts so much. Is something wrong with the baby? She's also pregnant with your child. Jacob stared blankly as Knox gently comforted the woman. Jacob's response was the man picking up Quinn and then kicking Jacob in the chest. If anything happens to Quinn's baby, Jacob will never forgive you. Jacob tumbled down the steps, the edges of the steps hitting her wounds. After rolling to the middle of the road, Jacob had no strength left to get up, or even to catch her breath. As Jacob watched a large truck approach her, she despaired and closed her eyes. However, the expected pain never came. A pair of strong hands, carrying a familiar scent of cedar, pulled Jacob from the middle of the road, followed by a voice filled with trembling and lingering fear. Phoenix Jade, Jacob finally found you. And you going to die right in front of Jacob. Jacob opened her eyes. It was Ava. It was William, who had always protected Jacob since the orphanage, but had lost contact with Jacob after being found by his biological father. Jacob tightly clutched Ava's arm. Jacob's baby is in its belly, please. Let Jacob's baby rest in peace, okay? After receiving the man's promise, Jacob was about to close her eyes in peace. But Knox's voice was grating and harsh. Well, Phoenix, no wonder you wanted to break up with Jacob. Turns out you've already found someone new. Knox rushed down the steps, seeing Jacob in the man's arms. He paused for a few seconds. Then, sneered Quinn, who had been set aside, watched Jacob with jealous hatred. Knox, your thoughts are truly disgusting. Halfway through her sentence, Jacob doubled over in pain. Phoenix Jade, Jacob will take you to a doctor, just bear with it a little longer. Ava picked Jacob up from the ground, his voice anxious in a haze. Jacob heard Ava say powerfully, Knox, Jacob will make you pay for everything you did to Phoenix. One by one. Jacob didn't know how long she had been unconscious when she woke up. Jacob was lying in a cool-toned bedroom. The surrounding furniture was subtly luxurious, revealing the room owner's unique, elegant taste. Just as Jacob was about to sit up, Ava, dressed in loungewear, walked in. Where is this? Atlas. It's where Jacob lives. He gently adjusted her pillow, then touched Jacob's forehead with the back of his hand. Your fever has gone down. Jacob's baby. Jacob has managed to retrieve as many remains of your baby as possible and bought a plot for him in Ruby. Jacob will take you there when you're feeling better. No, Jacob wants to go now. Jacob pulled back the covers and tried to get out of bed. But before her feet even touched the floor, her body went limp, and she almost knelt. The man quickly scooped Jacob up from the floor and tucked her back into the covers. He sighed. You haven't changed a bit over the years, still as stubborn as ever. Is Knox your boyfriend? Jacob remained silent. Ava calmly peeled an apple and offered it to Jacob. He appeared kind, but his words were as sharp as ever. Phoenix Jade, your taste is as terrible as always. Jacob pursed her lips, unable to retort. After all, back in school, whether it was her clothing choices or her paintings, Jacob was always inferior to Ava. His taste had always been excellent. Why are you speechless? Weren't you quite eloquent before? It seems Knox truly harmed you deeply. Jacob has investigated all the bullying you suffered on the set. This revenge. Do you want to take it yourself? Or should Jacob help you? He spoke a string of sentences, stopping only at the last one. Jacob looked at him, seeing her miniature reflection in his pupils. Ava was asking for Jacob's opinion, though sharp-tongued. He had always respected Jacob's wishes. If she couldn't avenge her unjustly deceased child, how could Jacob be worthy of being his mother? Jacob clenched the fist hidden under the covers and said, word for word, Jacob will do it herself. To be honest, Ava, who had suddenly reappeared after so many years, was already a big shot. Jacob dared not aspire to, and Jacob didn't dare hope he would help her. But Jacob waited a long time, and Ava still showed no signs of leaving. He sat with his legs crossed, leaning back in the chair, watching Jacob, his eyes filled with fluctuating emotions that were hard to decipher. Jacob thought, perhaps he was waiting for Jacob to leave on her own. After all, this was his house. Just as Jacob was about to move, he spoke. Phoenix Jade, all these years, Jacob never stopped looking for you. But Jacob couldn't appear before you because Ava's family was eyeing Jacob covetously. Jacob was afraid they would harm you. So Jacob only dared to come looking for you without any reservations. After Jacob had fully inherited Ava's family, Ava never called Jacob Phoenix, because he said if he did, she would be no different from anyone else. So, since childhood, he loved to combine Jacob's name, calling her Phoenix Jade in her mind. Jacob pictured teenage Ava getting into Ava's family's luxurious car, with Jacob running behind, chasing the exhaust fumes, and the boy never looking back. Jacob unclenched her tightly fisted hands, trying to keep her voice steady. and said, understood after lying in bed for several days. Once her wounds gradually healed, Jacob eagerly contacted Ava, asking him to take her to the baby's grave, but unexpectedly, the moment Jacob saw Ava, he nervously hid his phone behind his back. Yet Jacob saw pity and tenderness in his eyes. What's wrong? Out of a woman's sixth sense, Jacob felt that his expression towards her was likely due to the content on his phone. What did you see? Jacob held out her hand to him. Nothing, Ava. You know your eyes involuntarily look down whenever you lie. Show Jacob. Don't worry. Jacob can handle it. Phoenix Jade, give it to Jacob. Ava handed the phone to Jacob. Jacob pressed the play button on the video. It was a video from before, when Jacob was forced to kneel and bark like a dog on the set to earn the $3 million for Knox. The director of that show had tried to proposition Jacob, and after Jacob refused, he publicly humiliated her on the set. He said Jacob would only get her salary if she knelt and barked 100 times. She never expected that someone had recorded a video of this. Jacob was about to exit the page when she saw other netizens uploading videos of Jacob below. Jacob opened them one by one. These videos even included the one from a few days ago where she was publicly stripped. Netizens below were using all sorts of vile language to demean Jacob. This wave of negative comments spread like wildfire. Jacob closed her eyes, pulled out her own phone, and dialed Knox's number. Are the things online you're doing? Phoenix. Quinn experienced fetal distress because of you this time. Jacob is just teaching you a lesson. If you dare to hurt Quinn again, Jacob will never forgive you and come back to Jacob. You don't really think Ava will treat you well, do you? Knox's tone showed no sign of regret. Her child is a child, and Jacob's child isn't a child. Jacob spoke up for her unborn child, but then she heard the man on the phone say, "You're probably pregnant with that wild man's child, aren't you?" The sound from the phone was loud. The study was silent. Ava must have heard Knox's words to Jacob, hung up the phone and looked apologetically at Ava. "I am sorry for dragging you into this mess, Phoenix Jade. Do you have to be so distant from Jacob?" The man heavily threw down the pen. He was signing documents with Jacob. Pursed her lips, not answering his question. Jacob feels much better now. Jacob wants to go see the baby. Jacob will find someone to suppress your situation. No need. Why? Ava frowned, looking at Jacob with confusion. Jacob's first leading role film is about to be released. Jacob has a lot of attention right now. Any publicity is good publicity. Most people would kill for this kind of explosive popularity. Jacob smiled and shrugged. Ava stared fixedly at Jacob for a long time. As you wish. He stood up, picked up the car keys from the table, and walked out the door. The man took large strides. Jacob had to jog to keep up. Knowing Ava, she understood he was angry, but despite his anger, Ava still drove steadily on the road, mindful of Jacob's injuries following behind him. Jacob arrived at her baby's grave. Jacob's hand caressed the words carved on the tombstone, and tears streamed uncontrollably down her face, just thinking that he had stayed in Jacob's Oliver for 3 months. Less than a month passed from the moment Jacob knew of his existence to his passing. Jacob had felt him grow inside her little by little. He was Jacob's only blood relative in the world, the person Jacob thought she would depend on in the future, yet he died in such a tragic way. He hadn't even seen this world, and Jacob hadn't heard him call her mommy. Thinking this, Jacob's resentment and hatred for Quinn and Knox deepened, collapsing onto the urn. Jacob cried uncontrollably, at one point thinking she would cry herself to death. Just as Jacob was crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath, Ava scooped her up from the ground. He reached out his long, dry fingers, brushed the tear-soaked strands of hair from Jacob's cheeks behind her ear, leaned down, looked into Jacob's eyes, and said, "Phoenix Jade, if you plan to cry yourself to death in this cemetery, Jacob won't bring you here again next time." Jacob was startled by his words and instantly suppressed her half-finished cry, but her sobs, wouldn't stop immediately. Letting out a hiccup, he sighed, and took Jacob's hand. Let us go, the deceased is gone, your body has fully recovered. And Jacob only cares about you. Jacob reluctantly looked back at the tombstone one last time, truly worried that the man would harden his heart and never let her come to the cemetery again. In the end, she had no choice but to leave with Ava. The man put Jacob into the car and fastened her seatbelt. He then walked around the front of the car to the driver's seat. He looked at Jacob's swollen eyes, sighed, pulled an ice pack from the back seat, and placed it on Jacob's eyes. Your eyes used to sting every time you cried. Jacob reached out to hold the ice pack herself, and her fingertips accidentally touched Ava's. She quickly pulled her hand back with her eyes closed, and her vision temporarily gone. Jacob became even more sensitive to her surroundings. Jacob heard the man's self-mocking voice. Phoenix Jade, how long are you going to keep being so distant from Jacob? Jacob is afraid of bothering you. You are the unreachable William. But Jacob is an 18-line actress in the entertainment industry, plagued by negative reviews right now. Shouldn't be associated with Jacob. Phoenix Jade, you either don't speak, or when you do, you make Jacob furious. Ava's voice suddenly turned cold. Jacob simply assumed she had displeased him. After all, he was the center of attention, while Jacob was worthless as dirt. So Jacob pulled off the ice pack from her eyes and nodded to Ava. Thank you, Ethan, for your hospitality and help these past few days. Once Emily calculates the cost of the baby's grave and Jacob's expenses these past few days, you can contact Jacob anytime, and Jacob will settle the bill. After speaking, Jacob prepared to open the car door and get out, but then she heard the sound of the car doors locking. Jacob turned her head in astonishment to look at the man. Ava's jawline was tightly clenched, sharp and defined. Jacob had never seen him look so angry before. As Jacob wondered what to do, the man leaned over, caressed Jacob's face, and kissed her. He was aggressive, and Jacob couldn't resist until she was soft and pliant in the passenger seat from his kisses. You won't let Jacob interfere with your revenge, and you want to settle the cost of this grave with Jacob. Phoenix Jade, are you really planning to go your separate ways and cut ties with Jacob completely? Jacob lowered her eyes, her gaze falling on his exposed, elegant collarbone, and nodded. Ava seemed to laugh in anger. He gripped the steering wheel and stomped on the gas. Go pack your things. You're coming to Atlas to live with Jacob now. When Jacob finished packing her belongings from the apartment she had once shared with Knox and dragged her suitcase out of the apartment building entrance, Knox walked over from Mason's side. Looking distraught, he saw Jacob and practically sprinted towards her. This was the first time Jacob had seen him since the incident at the hospital. Knox's clothes looked like they hadn't been changed in days. They had wine stains and a mix of unpleasant odors. He tightly grabbed Jacob's left hand. Jade, we really had a child. Didn't we? Jacob didn't know why he was saying this now. Yes, Jacob told you, but you didn't believe it. His hand reached out to touch Jacob's Oliver, but Jacob dodged him. Knox, who are you putting on this act for now? He was completely ruined by you're the one who got away. Recalling that scene, Jacob's heart still ached, as if it were bleeding. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Jacob didn't know you were really pregnant with Jacob's child, because the doctor told Jacob years ago that you were infertile. So Jacob was convinced. You couldn't get pregnant. I am sorry. Truly sorry. Watching Knox cry with snot and tears mixing together, Jacob disgustedly shook his hand off. He's dead. No amount of apology can bring him back alive into Jacob's Oliver. Jacob walked around him, intending to move forward, but he tremblingly pulled Jacob's prenatal records from his pants pocket. No wonder Jacob couldn't find those records. while packing her luggage earlier. It turned out Knox had taken them. He unfolded the prenatal records, pointing to the blurry ultrasound image of the fetus. You said if he were still alive, his eyes should be like yours. Your eyes are the most beautiful. Before he could finish, Jacob snatched the records from his hand. This was Jacob's baby. Jacob would absolutely not allow anything related to him to fall into the hands of the murderer, who indirectly caused his death. Jade, can we start over? I'll definitely have more children. The man hugged Jacob's waist, preventing her from leaving. Jacob's patience wore thin. She turned around and slapped Knox across the face. Jacob was just a stand-in for you're the one who got away. You're the one who got away is already pregnant with your child. So, why are you still coming to Jacob? Is it just because Jacob is uninhibited in bed? So you haven't gotten tired of her yet? Are you going to keep recording videos of Jacob and Jacob in bed for you're the one who got away? So she knows you never kissed Jacob on the lips all these years. She had already cried all her tears in the cemetery earlier. Now Jacob couldn't cry anymore. Only feeling the soreness and pain in her eye sockets, Knox stumbled back a few steps, staring at Jacob in disbelief. Jade, you heard everything we said in the green room that day. Jacob twisted her lips into a bitter smile. Thankfully, fate has a way of showing the truth, allowing Jacob to learn the real faces of you to despicable people early. Jacob was already curious why, every time Jacob stood in for Quinn, every scene had to be shot so many times. Turns out, it was all you're doing. You ray not short on children. Quinn is pregnant with yours. Jade. Jacob is sorry. Jacob looked up at the gray sky covered by dark clouds and exhaled a long breath. Knox. Jacob is an orphan since childhood. Jacob's dream has been to have her own family. Jacob even planned everything out. Once Jacob finished paying off your $3 million debt, Jacob's our little family would live a good life. Jacob thought Jacob was really going to achieve her childhood dream. That's why, in the past few months, it was the most hopeful time Jacob had lived in over 20 years, but Jacob never imagined it was all a pipe dream, a fleeting illusion. If Jacob had known this would be the outcome with you, Jacob wouldn't have accepted your pursuit back then, during William's year. When Jacob returned to school after tutoring, it was already late at night. She happened to encounter a few drunk Charlottes. They cornered Jacob in an alleyway, intending to harass her. Jacob was alone and helpless. No one paid attention, even when she screamed herself hoarse. Just as Jacob thought she was about to lose her innocence, Knox appeared. He was wearing a windbreaker jacket and a blue stud earring in his left ear. He chased off those Charlottes. He said his name was Knox. As an encounter from that day on, Jacob often saw him at school. It turned out he was at the same school as Jacob. He was a finance major. With each encounter, Jacob's interactions with him became more frequent. Before long, he confessed his feelings to Jacob, and Jacob accepted him. Everything after that unfolded naturally, living together, intimacy, and taking on acting jobs to pay off his debts. What Jacob thought was a helping hand was merely the claw of a demon dragging Jacob into the abyss. Jacob let out a bitter laugh, picked up the suitcase that had fallen to the ground, and continued walking forward without looking back. Chapter 8. Jacob's first leading role was in Taylor's The Quiet Soul film. Title: The film's plot also told the story of an orphan girl who experienced various hardships and ultimately became a winner in life. In some ways, Jacob's life trajectory overlapped with hers. At the film's promotional event, reporters unanimously brought up Jacob's negative news. Phoenix, is the person in the video really you? Why would you film such explicit scenes? Aren't you worried about the impact on your future acting career? We heard you once stole new-tier actress Quinn's Amelia, and even became pregnant with his child. Are you the third party who interfered in their relationship? Jacob listened with a smile to the reporters' various sharp and jarring questions. After they had all finished asking, Jacob met Taylor's worried gaze. and gave her a comforting smile immediately after. Jacob took the microphone. When Jacob and Knox were together, it was a normal boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Jacob was unaware of his relationship with Quinn, so there was no situation where Jacob acted as a third party between them. Furthermore, the videos you claim to have seen of Jacob completely undressed were filmed by him voluntarily during Jacob's relationship with Knox. Therefore, Jacob reasonably suspects he publicly released these videos without Jacob's consent for his own unspeakable personal desires. Finally, Jacob and he did have a child, but he died in Quinn's dog's mouth after Jacob's words. The scene fell silent for a moment. Suddenly, a voice came from somewhere. How could Emily, who grew up with Quinn, possibly be interested in you? Did you deliberately get plastic surgery to look like Quinn and approach Emily while Quinn was abroad? Such a targeted question made it difficult for Jacob not to suspect that Quinn had sent someone to disrupt the event. Jacob was about to question this when she saw Knox, who had been sitting in the audience. Stand up, he shouted loudly in the direction of the question. Phoenix has never looked like Quinn. Jacob was blind and did things to wrong her. Knox turned and met Jacob's gaze on stage, but Jacob acted as if she hadn't seen him, maintaining her composure and following the promotional event's procedures. When Jacob walked off the stage, Knox rushed over and grabbed Jacob's wrist. Jacob looked coolly at his hand gripping hers. Jacob and Emily have already broken up. Why would Emily need to come to Jacob to put on an act of deep affection? Jade, after you left, Jacob realized that over the years, Jacob had fallen in love with you. You permeated every aspect of Jacob's life. There's no longer your fallen hair on the pillow, and no one leaves a warm light on for Jacob. When Jacob comes home late, there's no trace of you left in the house. Everything that happened before was Jacob's fault. Jacob will spend the rest of Jacob's life making it up to you. Please give Jacob another chance. Jacob looked at the man kneeling before her without hesitation, her heart utterly unmoved. You never appreciate what you have. You waited for Quinn to return for so many years, and now she is pregnant with your child. Why bother putting on an act of deep affection in front of Jacob? The child in Quinn's Oliver isn't Jacob's. A hint of malice appeared on Knox's face. It's from a one-night stand she had abroad, but they both broke. So she wants Jacob to be the fall guy. This came as a surprise to Jacob, but Jacob felt no sympathy for Knox. Perhaps this was a case of pitiful people having their own detestable qualities. Does Quinn know you've already learned the truth? Jacob's phone in her hand suddenly rang. It was Ava, calling Jacob's. People say Quinn is heading to the cemetery now. Jacob's afraid she'll harm the baby's grave. Jacob's at the entrance. Hurry out. Chapter 9. Jacob trembled all over, no longer caring about Knox, but his hand was still tightly gripping Jacob, refusing to let go. In her haste, Jacob severely dug her high heel into his instep. Quinn is going to the baby's grave. If anything happens to that grave, Jacob will never forgive you. The strength in her hands instantly gave out. Jacob quickly ran to the door Ava had just opened, the car door for Jacob. Jacob bent down to get in, her hands trembling so much she couldn't fasten the seatbelt. Don't rush, he said. Jacob's people are already on their way. He fastened Jacob's seatbelt for her and sped off with her through the rearview mirror. Jacob saw Knox's car following closely behind them. When they arrived at the cemetery, Ava's people were already there. They had Quinn restrained to the side. Jacob walked over and furiously slapped the woman across the face. She didn't stop until her hand hurt too much to continue. Quinn, you're about to become a mother yourself. Aren't you afraid all this will come back to haunt you? Quinn spat a mouthful of bloody saliva and burst out laughing. Knox already knows Jacob's child isn't his. Jacob can't marry into the Shen family with this child. What retribution does Jacob have to fear? If I hadn't been stopped, I would have scattered your child's ashes to the wind, ensuring he'd never find peace in the afterlife. But Phoenix, You really have good fortune, you just broke up with Knox. And already you've landed William. She then turned to Ava and said, William, the woman next to you isn't as pure as you think. Her body has been seen by so many. Who knows how many men have touched her. Jacob was so furious, she was about to step forward and hit Quinn again. But Ava pulled Jacob into his embrace. Phoenix Jade. Don't look. Jacob only heard the woman's gut-wrenching screams when Jacob peeked out from Ava's arms. She saw Quinn's limbs hanging limply. The man's cold voice echoed in her ears. If it weren't for the sanctity of a child's grave, Jacob would not have let you off so easily. Knox also arrived. He looked at Quinn, his eyes devoid of any emotion, and carried her away as if she were a sack of meat. He avoided Jacob's gaze and simply said, Jade, rest assured, Jacob won't let her bother you again. Jacob stood there, taking a long time to compose herself and shake off the lingering fear. Ava took Jacob's hand, blowing gently on it. Next time, let someone else handle the slapping. Jacob pulled her hand away, looking at him. Let's retrieve the child's ashes. Jacob wants to take him away. Where are you going? I'll make the world my home. Jacob is like a rootless duckweed, with no place to settle. Then what about Jacob? Phoenix Jade. What about Jacob? Jacob finally found you. Are you just going to abandon Jacob? Ava, the year you left at 15. You also didn't leave a single word. Abandoning Jacob and leaving first. This was the first time Jacob had voluntarily brought up their past since they'd reunited. The man pressed his lips together, his eyes filled with turbulent emotions. So, are you going to do to me what I did to you? Jacob shook her head. Jacob is different from you. Jacob is breaking up with you. Amicably. Breaking up amicably. Jacob doesn't agree. Ava forcefully threaded his fingers through Jacob's, saying with a hint of menace, Ava, Jacob is tired. Jacob doesn't have the energy to invest in a new relationship. Perhaps Jacob did have feelings for you back then, but so much time has passed, and we've all changed. Phoenix Jade, you can't abandon Jacob. Jacob reached out and stroked his head, saying nothing more. After a long while, he loosened his grip. You've always been more ruthless than Jacob. But Phoenix Jade, if you don't accept Jacob, Jacob won't allow you to accept any other man. Otherwise, Jacob might really break your legs and lock you in a room, preventing you from even stepping out the door. This was the true nature of the ruthless young master of the Alex family from the capital. Fortunately, Jacob didn't plan to spend any more thought on men in the future. They wouldn't be Jacob's salvation. Only Jacob was Jacob's own savior. The Quiet Soul film title performed far better than we anticipated, and with her role in the Quiet Soul film title, Jacob leapt to become Best Actress. With a steady stream of film offers, no longer the unknown extra who used to only appear on screen through bit parts, it was rumored that Knox, embroiled in scandal, caused the Shen Group's stock price to plummet, and was impeached by the board of directors, forcing him out of the Shen family. He spent his days drinking to dull the pain, constantly muttering Jacob's name. On a recent night, he drunk driving and crashed into a river. His body never recovered, but none of this had anything to do with Jacob. Jacob put her child's ashes in a necklace and traveled from one country to another. He was always with Jacob. Jacob had witnessed the orange mist of dawn settling on rocks, and heard the awe-inspiring sounds of whales playing deep in the ocean on a whim. Jacob would occasionally go live on social media every time. There was one person who never said a word, but showered her with the most expensive gifts from start to finish. They literally became Karen. His username was Kai.